Hi, welcome to the Snapchat tutorial, A Parent's Guide to Safety, brought to you by Sarah Flack, the Education Coordinator here at the Child Advocacy Center at the Finger Lakes. In our weekly webinar series, we're focusing on a variety of different online platforms, apps, and social media campaigns to try and bring parents and also their children some understanding of the safety settings available on each of those sites. We understand and recognize that a lot of our youth are using a wide variety of social media apps in their daily lives. So we just want to make sure that everybody has the knowledge to safely interact on those sites. So first I want to talk about what's all the buzz about. So what is Snapchat? Snapchat is a photo, video, audio, and live messaging application platform. There is a feature called Stories. Stories are videos or photos that users post that are available to the public, and they disappear within 24 hours after being posted. Snapchat also has a private messaging feature where users can interact one-on-one or sometimes in group settings. A lot of the big buzz started when people started realizing that there was filters that they could use to edit images. However, the filters we see also in research being tied to some self-esteem and self-image concerns, because a lot of the filters can actually enhance the quality of the image in users' minds. And then it kind of puts this pressure on them to look or act a specific way that maybe isn't realistic without the filter. And then there's also all these icons and the word streaks, which we're going to be taking a pretty close look at and discussing further as we move through this presentation. So the popularity with teens and tweens, 75% of our youth in the United States use Snapchat every day. And 30% of youth say that they use Snapchat because their parents don't. So they feel like this is a platform that their parents aren't using and they can fully express themselves. Obviously, if parents aren't using the app, they're probably less familiar with the features, including security settings, as well as who their children are interacting with and the types of media that they're seeing and posting. So what is a streak? Many of you may have heard your child say, oh no, I'll lose my streak, or I need to have my phone. We started seeing this a lot of times when parents would ground their children or take away their phone as a consequence, and kids would get really upset about how they were gonna lose their streak, and nobody really understood what they meant. So a streak is actually given to a user when they have sent each other snaps consistently for 2 or more days. So say I'm talking to my friend Billy, and Billy and I send each other a snap, whether that's a text chat or an image or a video, pretty regularly every day. So today is our first day interacting on Snapchat. We don't have a streak yet, but tomorrow, if we both send each other a snap, we'll have a streak of 2 days, meaning we would have sent messages and received them from each other yesterday as well as today. Every day that two users interact with each other and they both send each other a message or a snap, they will acquire one more day. And this little fire emoji will appear next to the friend's name along with a number. This indicates you are on a streak, and the number indicates how many days that streak has been going on. So if you're a parent looking at your child's friends and you see a high number, then that gives you the indication that your child is interacting with that individual very regularly. So what we're looking at here is a few of the screens that we see on Snapchat. Now, initially when you open the application, you're gonna see just your camera, and you're gonna have to swipe or click on one of the bottom icons in order to get to the stream feeds. So what we have here, it would be the camera, and that's if you were gonna take a snap or whether that's a video, you would hold that button down until you wanted the video to end, or if you just clicked it, it would take it like a regular camera. However, if we swipe to our friends, we're gonna see a list of all of the active chats that we have going on. with their name, their user or profile picture, and then a lot of icons to the side as well as underneath. So these little arrows and timestamps here. And I'm going to talk a lot more about what those look like. So we'll take a closer look at this screen. Down here, you see this little chat bubble. That just indicates that you have a chat that hasn't yet been viewed or read, or a snap that hasn't been viewed. And then we also have this one, which is the Discover feed, and we'll talk about that. That's over to the left. And that just means that there's been new things updated. This middle screen that we're looking at is actually a user's profile. And so you'll notice quite a few things. First, their image. So on Spencer's profile, his image of his dog would be in this big picture. And then name, their handle, and then different things that they can do to edit. So if they wanted to share their snap or their story, they could certainly email it, send it through a text, anything like that, so that people could click on their direct link to their page. They can add friends. It shows their story if they've added things to their story, which again is those public views that last about 24 hours and then they disappear. And then lower on the page, there's some other things in settings. Now, when we're looking at settings later on, we're really going to be focusing on this gear up here in the right-hand corner. On pretty much every social media platform or application, what you're looking for when you're trying to navigate your settings is that gear. The last thing we're seeing over here on the right is the Discover page. This is where you can actually search and type in something that you want to look for or to add someone. And the thing with the Discover page, we're going to talk about that a little more, is that it's completely customizable to every user. So before we get too far, I do want to go back to those emojis and talk about what they mean and what we're looking at when we see these emojis, and specifically the snap streak, because that's something that we hear a lot of our young people talking about. So the friend emojis indicate who you are interacting with and who's interacting with you as well. And then we have our snap streak, which is the number of days you and your friends have both sent messages or snapped to each other. And it resets to 0 if one person misses a day. So even if me and my friend Billy are snapping every day, if I lose access to my phone or I'm unable to log on and send him a snap today for whatever reason, even if he sends me one, we're still going to lose our streak because we both have to send a snap within 24 hours. As you can see, and it might be a little hard to read, each one of these icons means something a little different. Rarely do the kids actually know what they mean, but they do know that if an icon or an emoji pops up, that means that that is somebody that they've been interacting with pretty regularly. It can be kind of difficult to get that to come up. So they have to interact with each other pretty frequently. We'll take a look at this very top on the Super BFF, which is the 2 hearts. Appears next to your number 1 best friend when you're also their number 1 best friend for 2 months in a row. 2 months is a pretty long time to be interacting regularly or daily through Snap. And you also, it has to be a mutual relationship. So you both have to be number 1 best friends, which can be very difficult unless you are only speaking to a limited number of people through Snap. Some of the other icons that I pointed out earlier. So those little triangles mean that you sent something. So whenever it is filled in still, means you sent. And then when it's opened by your friend, meaning they received it and they've opened it, is when you're going to have the open center. So you can think of opened icons, meaning open center of the icon. So based on the color, what will tell you if it was a snap with or without audio, if it was a chat, or the green ones, which are received cache. And then received are going to be your squares. And the easiest way to know if it's a chat, meaning it's a text message, is going to be if it has this little tail on the end, just like a speech bubble. So that's the easiest way for me to remember, is that if I've received a speech bubble only, then it's going to have the little tail. Same way, viewed or opened means that the center is not colored in. and then screenshot icons. So that's going to be a star with like the little arrows bursting out, almost like an image was taken or like a camera shot. So that's if somebody took a screenshot of something you had already sent. One of the biggest claims to fame for Snapchat and what kids were thinking about it was that if they sent it, it could only be viewed for like 10, 15 seconds and then it would disappear. So, talking to kids, they would think it was a very secure platform. Their images wouldn't be shared. Well, as you can imagine, kids were sharing some pretty risky and inappropriate images because they believed that those images would simply just disappear. But what we know is that there is the ability to take screenshots on your phone. Sorry for my misspeaking. Screenshots on your phone or on tablets where you can save those images. If you go into your settings, you can have it set up that you're notified if somebody has taken a screenshot of something you've sent. However, kids have been very tricky about getting around this as well. In almost every school I've talked to, I ask kids, okay, well, if we have this notification, do you know of a way to get around it? And there's always a kid in every class who knows the way to get around it, which is to use multiple devices. So maybe they received a Snapchat on their phone from a boyfriend or a girlfriend and it's somewhat of an inappropriate picture and they want to save it. Instead of screenshotting it so that that person finds out that they screenshot it, they'll just take a secondary device. Maybe they have an iPad or they have a sibling or a friend who has a phone and is nearby. They just grab some other device and they take an image of their own device. And that's how sometimes we have issues where images are being shared beyond the person that they wanted them shared with, or posted online, things of that nature. So here we are back at the fronts, and we're just going to use some of that knowledge to kind of decipher what this is showing us. So if we look at this barbecue time chat, we can see a couple of things. So first, this blue bubble indicates that there is an unread chat message. So we talked about that being the color is filled in, meaning it hasn't been opened yet. And also it has that little tail, so we know it's the chat. There's also a couple of ways to recognize that this is a group message. So if you look at the icon, you can kind of see that there's a few different emoticons, and those are their little characters that they create to look like themselves. So there's the main one, and then there's a couple in the background. So that we know there's multiple people. The other way is that there's these stars over here, and we know that there's multiple stars. So those are just two easy ways to know that there are multiple people in this one chat group. Now we're going to take a look down here at Rodrigo. Rodrigo, we notice, has this heart icon that indicates that they have both been each other's #1 BFF for 2 months in a row. Based on the lack of other icons on all these other friends, that really shows us that Rodrigo is probably the closest friend, at least on Snapchat, for our girl Kim. And then here's the Discover page we talked about briefly. So again, up here is the search engine. You can simply type anything in if you want to find a celebrity, a fitness guru, different food, maybe a friend you're looking for, or even different things like we can see here, New York Times and the different television stations. So you can look up anything you want. And this is also customized to each user. So every user, if they pull up their Discover page, it's going to look different. And that's because some people who pay to have their accounts publicized, they get priority, meaning their accounts will be at the top of those. So a lot of times when you go in there, you're not just going to see random friends or people from your neighborhood. You're going to see celebrities or famous YouTubers or social media gurus, or you're also going to see things like the New York Times because they're going to be bumped up top. And then on top of it being prioritized by people who are paying for subscriptions, it's going to be ordered by user engagement and interests. So when you create your interest list, and then what you click on. So if I were to always click on the New York Times, and you can see here that it's bookmarked as a favorite, that's going to be at the top of my profile page. If it was something else that I was clicking on regularly, it would bump it to the same, kind of like how YouTube organizes videos based on things that you've already watched. So here we're going to start getting into our safety settings and talking about security for Snapchat. The safety setting, again, is going to be this little gear up here in the right-hand corner. Here it is here. Um, the other thing I wanted to show you below where it has your stories, if you scroll down farther, is the snap map. And we're going to talk about how we're going to put that on ghost mode, which means other users won't be able to see our location. I'm going to get a whole of settings. These images all are just really one after the other if you were to continue scrolling down your settings page. The very first thing you're going to see is just your basic info, your username, your birthday, mobile number, email, and password. Those are just ways that you can update, or you had to input that information to create your account. It's also a way, if you get locked out of your account, to get a temporary password so you can then log in later. Your Bitmoji is your little character. And then if we scroll down, what we're looking for is the additional services. So under settings and additional services, this contact me, view my story, see me in quick add, and see my location are the very important ones that I want to talk about first. Contact me refers to who can actually reach out and send you a snap. This account, as you can see, is sent to my friends. It could also be set to public. You can do exceptions, and you can also set it to completely private. I'm not sure, you would just probably be able to use like Discover. You wouldn't be able to have anyone contact you at that point. Same thing with view my story. So this account is sent to friends only. So those stories are the ones that are sent not directly to individual users. So like I mentioned my friend Billy. Say I have a friend Susie, Sally, Bobby, Johnny, and I think, okay, I want to post this. I want all of those friends to see it. So then I would just post it to my story and my friends would be able to see it. This can also be set to public. So it's in your best interest really to set that to friends only. See me in quick add is similar to a Facebook recommended friends you know. So if people were to start typing in friends near them or friends of friends, things like that, you might pop up and be recommended to them. So you can turn that on or off. And then see my location, that's going to be our ghost mode setting. A lot of times kids tend to have their Snapchat set on see my location. And I talk to them about that. And I always say, why exactly would you want them to know where you are? And a lot of times youth are telling me, well, I don't necessarily want other people to know where I am, but I want to see where they are. And this is the easiest way to do it. I was one time in a school and I have this app on my phone, was able to log in, and we zoomed in and we could tell exactly what classroom I was in with inside a major middle school, high school. Um, and it was a local one. So not only like what street was I on, what building was I at, but you could zoom in so close to know exactly what classroom I was in. I was at another school one time giving a presentation in a auditorium, and I asked the girl in the front row if she minded opening her snap map for me and kind of just showing us who else she saw in the location. And she said, well, she pulled it up and we could just see the auditorium fill with rows of little Bitmojis, all these little faces. And they were in rows. You could tell who was sitting next to who. And I had a girl at the other end of the auditorium row say, well, I'm not on her map. And I said, well, are you friends with her? And she said, no, I'm not. And so I said to the girl sitting next to her, do you mind opening your snap map? And she did. And sure enough, the girl who had said she wasn't showing up on the first classmates map was showing up on this one. So it was just crazy to see, you could tell who was in the front of the auditorium, back of the auditorium, the left side, the right side. It just zooms in so far. Some of the other settings that we have under support is if you need help, if you have a safety concern or a privacy question. Those are just good things to know in case you need to report something, or if you're having a hard time navigating your privacy settings. And then up here, I've spotted a bug or I have a suggestion. So maybe there's something, again, you want to report, or there's a glitch in the system or an error. You can certainly report that right to Snapchat. So here's that map again. So the map will move you around. Also on the map, it's crazy because you can see if somebody's moving too quickly, say they're moving too quickly through town, they will put the Bitmoji right into a car because they know that person can't possibly be walking. So they'll put that person in a car. If you were taking your phone and you were out on your boat and you were out in the water, they would put you in a boat because they know that you know you're out in the water. So it just indicates all those things. So down here again, you can see who can see my location. So only me is the ghost mode. If you wanted to leave friends on, if your friends also had theirs on, they would pop up on the map and you'd be able to see them all around town. So here we are again. I just wanted to show what this looks like. So if we go to that setting and we click the see my location, it'll pop up and give us this next page. And where we see ghost mode, we're gonna just wanna check that blue box and that'll take us off. I have had youth who have said, well, I like having ghost mode on and I like it when my friends have their ghost mode on, because if I'm supposed to meet them somewhere, I know, if they're on their way or if they're not on their way or where they are. I can't get a hold of them, I can find them and I know where they are. And I said, well, if you didn't answer a text message because you needed to be left alone, but then your friend came and found you because they followed you on a map, how would you feel? And 99% of the time, they're honest enough to say, that would bother me and I wouldn't like it. So I say to them, well, then maybe that's not the best way to try and track down your friends either. If they're truly your friend, I'm guessing you probably have their phone number and you could send them a text or call them up and ask them if they're on their way or if they're running late to something or if they want to meet up without trying to just find them without them knowing. The other thing down here is that there is a security setting for allowing friends to request location. So you can turn that on or off. And if you allow your friends to request your location, you would get a little notification or a chat that says that they are asking to know your location, and then you can either approve or deny it. One of the other things that I've had parents ask about locations is that they want their child to have the location on because they want to be able to track or find their child. But what you're doing by asking them to leave it on in the app is you're allowing anybody else who's on that app to see it as well. My suggestion is that in all of their social media apps, they should really truly turn off their location settings and just leave their location for their phone on. Because my guess is that most parents and caregivers are the administrators for their actual phone and accounts. So you could certainly, if you were concerned or having a hard time locating your child, track them based on just their phone and not through the apps themselves. What can parents do? Have a discussion with your child. Discuss the privacy settings, especially the ghost mode. Make sure you know their usernames and their passwords and monitor their snaps. Snaps, again, are a little bit more difficult to monitor, but what's important for youth to understand is even though their friend might not be that snap after 10, 15 seconds, they have to recognize that they did send that image over the internet. And when you send anything over the internet, it gets encrypted. Um, think about when you watch NCIS or Law and Order and they're reviewing some kind of evidence and you see on their computer screen all these random numbers and letter combinations pop up and they talk about it being encrypted. What all those numbers and letters represent are all the date and time stamps for that image. They represent colors, schemes, they represent any little micro bit of information. Some of the most important things that are in there are GPS location from when it was taken and sent, and also timestamps and date stamps. So even if they think it was erased and there's no access to it, Snapchat has to hold those for a certain amount of time. And if it's flagged via any service through the internet, it can be reported to places like NCMEC or local law enforcement. You may also want your child to show you their account and talk to you about what they like or dislike about the app. What do they tend to use it for? Um, you're going to want to get help to give help. So do your research, rewatch tutorials, figure out settings beforehand, and also figure them out together. It's a good idea to sit down with your child and ask them, do you know that you're set to ghost mode or that your account is set to private? And if they're not sure, pull up the app, pull up the settings, and double check them. Make sure that you have a conversation about what your rules and expectations are and that you can figure it out together. You're also going to want to model the behavior you want to see, so remind youth that nothing truly disappears. Again, if it's not on the internet, it's going to be there for a long time, and think about that digital footprint. These are some additional resources that have lots of information, not only about Snapchat, but about social media and software applications in general. There are some programs and some educational resources for all of these as well. They're not just for adults. If you have any further questions, you can certainly reach out to me. Again, my name is Sarah Flack. I'm the Education Coordinator at the Child Advocacy Center of the Finger Lakes, and my email is sarah, S-A-R-A, @cacfingerlakes.org.